Sasquatch, Yahoo, Phantom of the Forest, you Spearfinger, Fire Dragon, Ohio Grassman, Silver Giant, Bloodless Howler, West Virginia Vampire, Coyote King, Hogzilla, Devil Dog, Coyote Killer. Cave Creature, Mothman, Smoke Wolf, Lizard Demon, Ashman, Grafton Monster, Cow-Killing Bastard, Shadow Creature, Dustman, Cherokee, Death Cat, Wild Man, Great Fire Rape. What else do I have to say? Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the Bigfeets. Snallygaster, Rogue Team, Red Island Bear Beast, Silver Giant, Squalling Savage, Black Wolf was kind of average, Stone Giant, Raven Mocker, Midnight Whistler, Wampus Beast, Wawa Woman, Ohio Grassman again. Technically Huckleberry, Wolfman, or Wolf County need to find the X again if we hunt the Lightning Man. Webster's Werewolf, Daily Howl, Kentucky Hellhound, Little Girl, Headless Horror, I can't take it anymore. Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the Bigfeet.
This year's Bigfeets, we are not officially endorsed by Mountain Monsters, but I did ask Huckleberry on Twitter if he ever listened to the podcast, and he said he was a feet head. So, well, something. I'm Robert Brockway, but that's just a name. I am not the one who brocks.
I'm Sean Baby from the internet, and my unusual feature is I have an ESP box instead of a head. A television image of my original face appears in a view screen on my chest, and I employ a mental energy prod that transmits mental commands to my creations in the form of energy bolts of approximately 100,000 volts.
And I am New York Times bestselling author Jason Pargin. Question for some people, we are now in episode 17 of this podcast and of the TV show Mountain Monsters. Some people who ask, do I have to have watched the show, the Bigfoot hunting reality show Mountain Monsters, to enjoy this podcast, which is an episode-by-episode rewatch and analysis of it? I get the sense that most listeners have not watched the show. They just let us describe and dissect the episodes and imagine the show in the theater of their mind, and I can see why some people would find that enjoyable, because what we're describing is madness. It is a carnival of madness, and so it must be fun to think, what is this show that if you watch it, it's crazier than what we're describing. So it's up to you, but it's not required. It's clear that it's not required, because some people are not.
Okay. You're going to look at the runtime and see that these episodes just keep getting longer and longer. We're doing 2 hours on, like, generously a 40-minute show. That should tell you how fucking jam-packed. Like, it takes us so long just to watch this, because you have to pause every line, every second. It's all madness. Like, we're not leaving anything out. This is paced exactly like we say it is. It's fucking crazy to witness. But you're absolutely right. Most people, the bulk of the audience, does not watch the show. Partially because it's very hard to find. Like, if you don't have HBO, it's hard to find, and then everything's just kind of scattered in order. Some people, like a meaningful segment, really honestly do still think we are making this up. They still think this is a bit. And they think the more we insist that it's real and it's not a bit, the more they're sure it's a bit. Because this can't exist. Why would this exist?
So let me, for those of you doubters out there, let me drop something on you. If you were to go to IMDb right now and look up to see if there's a show called Mountain Monsters, I want you to notice something else. The episode we're about to talk about, the cave creature of whatever county, episode 17, the IMDb audience score, the rating, is 8.6.
Love it.
By comparison,
love this episode.
That is half a point higher than the pilot episode of Mad Men. It is higher than almost any episode in the first season of Mad Men. There's like a dozen episodes of Breaking Bad with lower than an 8.6 rating.
I would call this show just a little better than Mad Men.
So some of you are going to say, well, surely then this, the cave creature, is the highest rated episode of Mountain Monsters, and it's all downhill from here. Oh no, there are episodes in season 8 with a perfect 10. Literally, in the audience's view, the best piece of television ever recorded in the history of the medium.
That could possibly. You can't beat this. Whatever you try afterwards.
Definitely.
Yeah, we haven't got there. I don't know. By season 8, surely. Surely it will be.
God, what will the world look like by the time we are on season 8 of this?
There won't be one anymore. I've long since been destroyed. We will be doing this podcast around a burning barrel, like telling people of the world that once was. And they still won't believe us.
Plucked away by snallygasters, one after another.
Your civilization deserved to die.
Yes, that is what I'm trying to tell you.
We're glad the old ones are gone. They wasted it.
All right, before we get into this, let's do our plugs. Sean.
Oh, please go to 1900hotdog.com. It's our comedy website. Rockway and I run it. We do daily absurd things from wrong dimensions, starring human writers being well paid for their work. We're very proud of it. I'm bad at plugs, but there you go.
That's pretty good. Like I said, I think the best plug we can give for the site is we still employ human writers. If you like that, if you like humans, why would you? I don't know. But if you do, we're doing that. We also, me and Sean, do the Dog Zone 9000. That's our other podcast. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. And it's a little more freeform than this one. Sometimes we will do, let's say, the episode of Golden Girls where they got Mario Lopez deported.
That was
like
a fun one.
Almost intentionally. And other times we will do something like Bigfoot Lives, which is somehow crazier than this. There aren't many things that are crazier than this show, but that was a fucking wild one by a man that disappeared off the face of the earth the second we finished talking about him, like we made him up. So it's incredible. We cover things that literally don't exist by the time we're finished talking about them. We're the only source now for Bigfoot Lives. If you want to know anything about that wild-ass book, this is it. Come listen to us. Dog Zone 9000. Jason?
I suppose there's at least one person out there who thinks that every episode of me saying that I am an author, that is just part of the bit we're doing. And that in reality. But no, I actually make my full-time living off of writing novels, and they are well regarded by some people who read them. The one that is up for pre-order now is my 8th book, but is a standalone novel called I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom. It's up for pre-order in every possible format, wherever you like to pre-order books.
Jason's being so humble. If you go look at his reviews on Amazon, there are thousands, and they have incredibly high ratings. Like, he is the Mountain Monsters of writing. In terms of audience satisfaction.
That's a really good pull quote. Have you filled the pull quotes on the new book?
Not yet.
We are watching the show Mountain Monsters. It is a real show. I know that's only going to convince some of you that it isn't. But it's kind of like those ghost hunting reality shows where they run around the woods or some haunted house or something and pretend like, oh, maybe we heard something. Only they find the ghost for real every single time and they get in a fucking fist fight with it. And always lose.
And
always
lose.
lose.
In humiliating fashion, orchestrated themselves. They orchestrate their own horrific defeat every time. It's almost
monster subbing.
Borderline fetish.
It is sexual. Yeah. It is powerfully
it's a sexual cuck fetish now. They've painted themselves into this corner. You can't find a monster every episode without ever defeating or capturing a monster. As the stakes get raised, they just have to get their asses kicked harder and harder each time.
It's incredible that they're slowly... I feel like they're slowly realizing that. Our cast is Trapper. He's the leader. Huckleberry is security. Buck is the young rookie and husky ninja. Jeff is our hillbilly research scientist, by which I mean he has Wikipedia. Willie is our trapper, and Wild Bill is our heart and soul.
Our enlarged meth-pumping heart.
Our enlarged arrhythmic heart. We are watching Mountain Monsters Season 1, Episode 17, Cave Creature of Greenbrier County. That's according to the HBO Max order. There are different orders. I think this is Season 2 and a lot of them. Cave Creature of Greenbrier County is the important part. We always look up to see if this is something that they made up, if the monster is something they made up out of whole cloth for the episode, which they do sometimes, or if they base it on something that already pre-existed. This one is based on something that does pre-exist. It's the movie The Descent.
Yes, it's exactly when they show the rendering, it's exactly the monster from the film The Descent.
Exactly the story that they tell behind it. I looked. There's no anything like this in folklore. There is in the movie The Descent. They are doing it just like the Shadow Beast was the movie Aliens. Sometimes they just want to play a movie. Like somebody saw The Descent and it's like, let's play that. Let's play that, you guys. That looks fun. So we start off in Trapper's truck, doing a briefing, driving to the creature we're going to investigate. Trapper says, "We're going after the cave creature," and Buck just goes, "Cave creature."
Now,
they're just getting too
we're
comfortable.
done, right?
They could have named this anything because it's a brand new cryptid. They just made it up for the show and came up with the cave creature.
And what the cave creature is, Jeff says, well, he's human-like, about 600 pounds, 6.5 feet tall.
And then they show
He's two shacks, but like...
But in half a shack.
But in half a shack.
They show the rendering, and it is, it is the creature from... They took the creature from The Descent, exactly, and then, again, they used Microsoft Paint to add giant long teeth to it.
And red eyes. They put red eyes on it.
And red eyes. But the creature as depicted is not 200 pounds. It's a lean, wiry, 6 foot tall. It's a man-sized creature that is built like a man. So again, I know that I say the same thing every time they do it. I'm sorry. I find it adorable every time that they cannot grasp the density of these creatures, and they think that it is scarier that this thing weighs 600 pounds, even though it's smaller than any of them.
It's never been this ridiculous. It's never been this absurd when they say this is just like a man. He's 6.5 feet tall. Men that are 6.5 feet tall, and then you show the rendering, and it's not a gorilla. It's a guy. It's like kind of on the lean side. This guy weighs like $185, and you know that. You know that to look at it. Why would he weigh 600 pounds?
You should know that. I guess that maybe if they ask around the Ames crew, they're like, "What does a man weigh, guys?" And they're like, "I don't know, 500-600 pounds."
This is 6.5 pounds, 6.5 feet, and looking like this. This is Sean. This is Sean, baby.
Yeah, this is a me. They should have called it a cavern me.
So what are we looking at here, Sean? Like 550?
Yeah. I'm about 550.
Just destroying every chair you sit on, just every floor you step on. It just cracks under your feet.
It leaves just giant footprint tracks in every street he walks down.
If I jump into the pool, like every person in it gets launched out of the resort.
No,
I wouldn't say it has luscious thighs, but he's got some good tone on there.
They're
he's got some good leg muscles. They're not thick.
Yeah, but we're gonna get to that.
We're gonna get to something.
We're going to get to that later, because right away something interesting happens here, where Buck asks immediately, have there been any human attacks by this thing? Which is the question that should open every briefing, because that obviously matters a lot, and they spend a lot of the time struggling to say, well, this thing ate a field mouse. If it ate field mice, it means it's hungry. And if it's hungry, it might eat this man's child. So here he asks, have there been any human attacks? And then Trapper says they don't really know. It's using the Blood Run cave system, which is a cavern system of 20 miles. And then they speculate, so Buck says, so people could be disappearing. And then those people, they just assume they're casualty of the cave, but they could be victims of the monster, the cave monster. There's no such thing as a Blood Run cave system. That doesn't exist. The location is fake, and I think it's a note they got back from the producers, whoever they report to, said, if you're going to speculate that people who got lost in the cave and died may have gotten eaten by the cave monster, you need to make up a fake cave.
No, yeah.
Because you're talking about
note must have been delicious when it landed on Trapper's tongue.
You're talking about real people who disappeared, and you're making a goofy cryptid show like, well, this 12-year-old girl who disappeared in 1997, maybe she was eaten by the cave creature. It's like, no, you got to make up a fake
That's
cave.
going to kick your ass.
I
That's
actually
going to show up
tried
and beat the shit out of you.
to find what cave system they shot.
Child-eating Kevin just breathed a sigh of relief. Oh. The heat's off old Kevin.
I tried to look up what cave system they actually shot this in because it's beautiful. It's a spectacular location. It's a massive cavern. These are 60, 70 feet high. There's so many caves in West Virginia in this Greenbrier County where they went to. It's not clear. There's so many. It's just, that's the one thing about this show. West Virginia legitimately is a beautiful part of the country. There are waterfalls and streams and these caves and caverns. It is a gorgeous place to shoot. So it is sad that so often they're just shooting in somebody's barnyard around their outbuildings. But here they found this location, and it makes for an episode that I would have thought would have been like episode 1 of a new season, because it's like this is a whole new level of production, because I am assuming that shooting in a cave is not easy. There's lighting issues, there's everything else, but they take full advantage.
The stakes that they introduce when you men cannot walk through the woods and you're like, now we're going to get lost in an exotic cave, you're fucking dead. You're all fucking dead. Like, no, not from a creature, not from a beast. You're just from walking into that cave. You're never leaving that cave again. Except, it's, as Jason said, it's a gorgeous cave system that is very clearly a tourist destination.
Jeff actually, you know I have my issues with Jeff, but he kind of kills it on this briefing because this is just a caveman that they made up. It's a cavern shack. And he says, the Shawnee Indians killed off the settlers, and then they became ghosts, and this cave creature is their leader. He controls these ghosts.
He controls the ghosts.
He controls and Huckleberry tries to take us in. He's a ghost. Huckleberry's like, hold on, ghost, if that's true, they can kill the power of these lights. So Huckleberry's like, not holy shit, the dead walk among us and they're controlled by a troglodyte. He's like, our electrical weapons will have no effect. Well, and these seeds get they sprout later. They plant these seeds and some of them pay off. The ghost controlling does not, but later they do come up with some non-electrical lights based on this improv here. And I don't know. I love it.
Incredible. That
enjoy it now because they won't remember the ghost shit later.
Not
Jeff
at
just
all.
throws out we've got a ghost master, everybody. This guy, he's a ghost mancer. He's a ghost spender like Avatar. He just he knows a certain style of kung fu that manipulates ghosts. And Huckleberry's like, oh shit, so I can't use my iPod? Like,
but by the way,
he's just instantly annoyed.
Because
of course I know.
In this, as if it is established and known to science, the ghosts can turn off electrical lights.
Ghosts have never been in this show before, so he's implying a bit of world building here, where Huckleberry has a long experience fighting ghosts, and he knows. They have electrical powers. Clearly,
but that's the only thing that's so remarkable about that story of this that these slaughtered settlers is now controls. Isn't just a ghost. It is some sort of a tangible physical creature that controls a ghost army, like in the climax of the third Lord of the Rings film.
Yes, it's like an Aragorn. He's Aragorn just manipulating the ghosts. So they owe him a favor. They will never be satisfied. So with this fucking madness under our belt, we meet the first witness. He is a caver named Ed, who meets them outside of his cave, which I guess is his home. His identifiable headgear is a bright orange cave helmet with a light, which he wears all the time everywhere, I'm assuming.
Now, I'm sure you guys clocked this. This is a fucking cave tour guide. This is the tour guide of this specific cave, 100%.
I would say he is, or has been, I would say, my guess is a disgraced former tour guide. Because there's no way he's the tour guide for these caves and is like, yes, you gentlemen come in and show everybody my beautiful caves and tell them it's haunted by a 150-year-old ghost-mancing troglodyte. You do that.
Even lying about the cave system, saying, well, I'm here. Yeah, I've been exploring Blood Run Cave. Well, he says he had been exploring the caves in the area since the 1960s, but he had not previously explored the notoriously haunted Blood Run Cave here next to me. In reality, that cave is a real cave, and the people who run it would like the tourism attention of a TV show being filmed there. And instead of saying, well, this is Oregon Cave or whatever one of the other famous caves are, it's the fictional Blood Run cave where the cave monster lives.
So
Yeah. Well, nobody's talked to this guy since he lost that 4th grade class.
Yes, he is absolutely like, they have pictures up in the cave of like, don't let him back in. No, do not serve Ed the Caver. He's dangerous to himself and others. This cave is, they act like this is such a wild like system. We found it out here in the woods. It's got a little fence around it. It's got a nice well-beaten path leading into it. It couldn't be more clear that it's a tourist destination. And that holds true when Ed takes them into the cave up to a distance of 15 feet. Like, they are still standing in a patch of sunlight where Ed stops leading them into the cave.
Yeah, well, he tells them the whole time to watch their step. You know, like when you run into a hillbilly in the woods and they're just like, how y'all doing? I saw the pterodactyl monster. Now, watch your step. Please watch your step. Everyone, make sure you have your buddy. We got gifts over here to the right if you'd like some snacks after the tour.
So he brings them 15, like literally just to the entrance, and points to a hole and is like, yep, that's where the monster was. He explains that the arms were longer and the hands were very big. So we do have a shack again. This is officially a shack.
Or an elderly orangutan.
As if to prove that, they cut to Huckleberry, who says, the jump on this guy, he's got to have hellacious leg muscles.
Yeah, we're talking shack. Also, I think we found the source of the luscious thigh fetish on the show. Might be Huckleberry.
It's Huckleberry's editorial. He's always in the booth going like, can we goose them legs up a little bit? Goose them, can we keep goosing? Listen, you keep goosing and I'm gonna tell you when to stop. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet, I said.
I ain't say stop.
I said hellacious leg muscles.
Does that look hellacious to you, boy?
Because they're talking about how this creature can climb up the walls with his orangutan arms. And that's when Huckleberry says he must have hellacious leg muscles. So those leg muscles have nothing to do with what they're talking about.
No, because they just established it has huge arms and hands. That's what was being discussed. Nobody said anything about its legs. That completely came out of the blue.
Tastiest nuts. The most luscious veined penis you ever seen.
Now, what Jeff says, like replacing what Huckleberry says, is no, what it has is super long fingers and super strength, because it has to be able to climb this rock face up to 60 feet. And then he shows just like a very craggy, easily climbable rock face. So what they're worried about is that a tallish human in good enough shape to do moderate free climbing could wipe out their entire team, and they are absolutely correct.
Yes, 100%.
100% correct. They decide that this is such an impossible feat, there must be like a secret passage up to that rock, and that's what they have to find. And Trapper further decides, well, there's no food source in this cave. He must come out to feed. And that becomes very important until it's completely not important at all.
Yeah, because they are 100% going to put their traps in the cave. So, whatever.
So we're into the night investigation. That was our first witness. And Trapper gives them
they're doing a night investigation in a cave.
In a cave.
And I've got to say, it's wet. Like the rocks are slick. There's like running water over everything. This is not, it's cold enough that this is legitimately scary. I was not a fan of any of this. It's a tourist cave,
but a tourist cave would eat every one of these men alive. This is the most dangerous thing.
They don't survive a tour without a turned ankle.
Yeah, in the hunting of this monster, like a 4th grade class will pass them.
Right.
But they're
just frustrated. They like hold up the whole day. But Ed, the disgraced tour guide, like before he leaves, he says, "Well, good luck with your hunt." And he seemed like sincere and nice, but it's really hard for the subtext of that not to be, "You idiot children." What? You know, like, have fun hunting the cave monster tonight, fellas. You know, it's just like he's tried so hard to mean that. Crack me up.
So Huckleberry gives us a lock and load, and then we insert a cocking noise, so take your drink. They're looking at the snow out front of the cave, and Trapper looks down and says, that there's a field mouse track. And what's more, there's a fox after him. And that's enough for Trapper to determine that, no, there wouldn't be field mice out here if there was a cave creature coming out. They would know.
They would know. They would band together with the coyotes.
His bullshit is incredible. That he can track field mice by the eye, and he knows that their presence means no cave creature is in this area. So they gotta go deeper in the caves, is what that settles. So they go in.
4 feet into the tourist cave. Like, they're probably trying to keep a vending machine out of frame as they film these guys hunt a cave monster.
Any cave is super dangerous if you're like these men. But you can tell, like, if you're in a wild cave, like, there is not a 15-foot wide path cleared and with, like, packed dirt. And nobody's laid planks out between every gap for you to cross over. Like, it's... You have to pay $3.50 to the Parks Fund to get into this cave. It's to hunt the creature. Can we hunt cave creatures? Well, that's $5. That's $5. But yes, you can...
What's so funny to me is, like, they swap out the shotgun for a pistol. Like, ooh, we don't have the space in here, these tight quarters for a shotgun. And they're, like, looking for ambush points. Not for this moment, right? Like, there's no concern of an ambush happening now. But in the future, if they were to come through this area, when the creature is ambushing them, then they're in trouble. And I just think it's funny how dumb that is. How, like, they know they're in Act 1 of the Monster Attack show. But I also think it'd be funny if they ran into, like, a regular caver while they're just fully armed and expecting to run into a ghost-controlling cavern ape. And they're, you know, like, armed to the teeth. Like, these are genuine maniacs. And you start to, like, I don't know. Something about the context of this, like, was like, I don't know, having them fully armed running through a tourist trap felt like, oh, right, these are dangerous maniacs. Like,
yeah. They're hunting in Disneyland now, is what they're doing. That's
Yes.
why it's different. Before you were playing in your backyard with your guns, and now you brought your guns to Disneyland, and it's a different game. So they get, again, like 15 feet into the cave when they decide, like, oh, all these are ambush points. This ancient monster, it's just right here in the entrance. They encounter what I would call a human-sized hallway path.
mm-hmm.
But they decide that's too tight for half of the team to navigate, so Jeff and Buck have to stay behind while Trapper and Huckleberry dive into this little offshoot. And they shimmy through here when they should not have to shimmy. There's a cameraman even ahead of them, and they find the ancient cavern ape's kill den, like right here, like 15 feet into a tourist cave. It's full of old cow, the same old cow bones they use.
It's that same skeleton, right? That same souvenir skeleton. That is, so if you got that in your drinking game, they pulled out their garbage bag of bones that they scatter to identify the creature's nest. They have to point out
how insane it is. Like, why would there be a cow here? Oh, he must have dragged it here in pieces because it's the only bones they have.
Trapper, for the second time in the series, at least the second time, talks himself into. Initially wants to describe how strong the creature is. It's like it dragged the whole cow back here, but then he keeps walking it back, saying, "Well, he couldn't have gotten the whole thing at once. He must have dragged it back in pieces." And he winds up talking him into something that a dog could do.
Right.
Like a dog could chew up pieces off a cow and drag them back one bit at a time, or a coyote or whatever. Like it's no. Stay with that first thing. Say he dragged the whole 1,200-pound cow back there.
Well,
and just
I like how Huckleberry, like, he knows there's a lot of skeptics watching. And so we're watching the show about these idiots hunting a cave monster. And when we see a bunch of cow bones, we're thinking, well, obviously a cow walked back there and died of natural causes and then decayed. And Huckleberry says there's no way a cow could have just walked back in there and died. So, like, your whole theory is debunked, skeptics. Like, the cave monster tore it into chunks and brought it in shifts. That's the only way. It's we've all decided it's the only way. Just follow the facts.
The only way. There's no other way.
Another drinking game entry comes up where they say, the cave creature's a meat eater, a big-time meat eater. The drinking game is take a drink every time they make the logical leap from, this thing eats meat, therefore it needs to die.
Yep.
Because lots of things in the woods eat meat. That's the ecosystem. But they always treat it as a crime. as an actual crime,
Right.
a woods crime. This thing killed and ate another creature. It's got to go. We got to get this son of a bitch.
Well, the higher crime is killing and not eating the creature.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a separate drinking game entry when they get angry about that it wasn't consumed, that it was just killing for fun, for the thrill of it.
But if it does consume them, then it's a threat to man, because it has the taste of blood, and that drives everything insane, as that we've determined. So they find the scratch marks. They find little scratch marks in the cave, and they decide, those are ancient. Those are ancient scratch marks, so he can't be here anymore. He's got to be somewhere else. So it's time to turn around and leave. And Trapper just goes, I hope we can find our way out of here. He takes 2 steps and it's like, hi, Buck.
It is because even again in the universe of this show, they walked into the cave, they found a single little hallway, they walked down it, they turned right. It didn't branch off, and there was the bones.
There were no branches.
There's no. It's a corridor video game. There's no place to go other than back the way you came, and then there's the entrance. But they do make a big scene of like, I hope we can make it out of here.
With this knowledge, which is that here is the place we are not going to be, we definitely have to go to Wild Bill and Willie's Crackhead Trap Shack. They are hanging out on a cattle ranch, and they're making fun of a cow, doing a weird thing with its
roasting
tongue.
cows.
This
More
is
like
the
a beaver
first real
tail.
relatable
More like
thing.
a beaver tail, you cow.
I feel for like, I believe they really were just doing that. Like, if the cameras weren't on them, I think that's what they would be doing.
They
I
just make
really
fun of
believe
cows.
that moment. I think it's a great human moment.
One cow that's just kind of swinging its tongue around. I think it was just catching snow with its tongue. It wasn't. And then Wild Bill is just mesmerized. So what kind of monster is that? I think that thing swallowed a peach or something. Its whole tail that they're flopping like that.
So weird.
Cow's eyes just widening as Jason Pargin notes from Out of Time melt on its tongue. I have all the knowledge I need to make mountain monsters. So
Now,
they decide they
remember
have to.
that the creature controls ghosts. That the show has forgotten about that, but they did not forget that part of this part of the show is they need to bring this information that they discovered to Willie and Wild Bill to say, here's the type of creature it is. This is the type of trap you need to build. So they come up and they're like, hey, Willie, here's what we've learned about this creature. He's hairless. He's man-like. He has no hair. Luscious thighs, shaved. Build a trap based on that.
Oh, I got just the trap. He'll never be able to resist this. So they decide they need, and this is what Trapper says when he rolls up. He says, we need a multi-trap system. And my notes just say disaster. Like, that's the scariest thing I've ever heard you utter. You cannot handle one trap. That's just it.
That's the thing, because what they come up with is just literally some loops of that, or a spool of cable of some kind. Probably it looks like line work cable, like guy wires. When you I think they stole this from where they worked, from the power company.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to make some loops with it, with a little whatever, some slip bolts or something, and they call those snares. But this feels like Willie having lost his confidence from the last episode, where his
I wrote that down exactly.
trap was
That's
such
what
a
happened,
disaster.
Right?
Yeah.
That has to be what happened. It's just been, look, I'm just going to make some loops, you guys, and you can...
Yeah, we're going to do some cowboy lassos.
Cave.
I need to take it easy this week.
You can say I made a bunch of them. I'm only going to make one. I know, actually, my brother is a little bit better at this than me, so I'm going to recommend him for this job.
They test it on
just
Willie.
Destroyed.
And he puts his foot in the snare. He's like, yep, that kind of worked.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It catches around your ankle. It does what he says. But then they decide that they need a comedy beat here, which is now a staple of the show. That where it's like, no, here's where we need Wild Bill to do, because they say that when they were shooting Jim Carrey movies in his prime, that there were entire bits of the screenplay that's just let Jim go, let him do his thing. Like it's not let him riff and use the scene and just play in that space and just let his genius take over. And this is the part of the episode where they tell Wild Bill, go out there and just riff with those cows. Just riff with the cattle. Just go out there and just do your thing. Do whatever your comedy instincts tell you to do. So he acts like he's going to test the snare by trying to lasso this cable around a cow's neck, which would be horrifying if it had worked. He
It
does
is a steel noose.
does some cow slapstick that I like to think in real life went on for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
But in this show, he at one point does something that delighted me like nothing has delighted me this year so far. Is he grabs like a branch of some leaves and holds it in front of himself like camouflage. And then as he approaches the cows behind the bush he's holding, says, "Here, moo-moos." And then as he creeps up on them, he throws the bush aside and screams, "Surprise, it's Wild Bill!" Woo!
And then starts sprinting after them, twirling a steel noose that cannot be undone once it is cinched tight.
Yeah, it has to be
above
cut.
his head.
They've established that once it cinches itself, the nuts they're using, it's a locking thing. They have to be, the cable has to be cut. So if he'd successfully lassoed one of these cows, it would have been a whole thing.
See, I think this is how Bill dies. I'm not saying like, oh, these cows are so dangerous. I know cows can and do kill people, but it's not likely. I'm saying like he's gonna lasso himself and hang himself trying to catch a cow. And like, this is how that obituary will read. Like when he goes down, and he will go down, it's just gonna be like, Wild Bill, rest in peace. He hung himself to death in a cow field, and his last words were, "Surprise, it's Wild Bill!"
He's going to outlive all of us.
There's a great moment. While Wild Bill is doing all of this shit, Willie just sits down on a haystack and says, he ain't coming back for a while. Just a parent grateful their hyper child found a dog to play with. Like,
once you release
You're
Wild
gonna
Bill
sleep
into
tonight.
a field, cleared your afternoon.
I'm trying to read a book. I've been reading a book all year, man. I take moments where I can get them. While obviously, I don't have to say that Wild Bill does not catch a cow. So they test it on Wild Bill's leg, which remember they already did on Willie. So they've tested it on both of their legs, and it works on both legs.
I think Wild Bill counts as a dumb animal, so this is a different type of test. So it's like, okay, it works on a human, it works on an animal. It's good. We're calling it good.
So it's time to find the second witness. Huckleberry says, sometimes it's as hard finding these witnesses as it is the monster. That's too
Bullshit.
self-aware. I don't like
Bullshit. Those monsters are right there when they get out of their car.
You do have to work harder to find those witnesses.
They've never had a problem finding a monster, ever. Multiple times they have struggled to find the spot in the wilderness where this witness stands all the time. Like a video game NPC, just standing waiting to give you their mission. They do not have homes. They do not have jobs.
Even Junior is especially bad at this. I feel like Junior is even more in the middle of the woods. Like there's not even... Sometimes when you find them, right? They find them in the woods. There's at least a notable feature where you're like, maybe there's a reason that guy's at this spot in the woods. It's a clearing. It's a creek or something. He's just in like an unremarkable patch of forest. You're like, why are you here, Junior? What are you doing? He is an avid outdoorsman, they call him. I believe he's just got a camo hat. He is...
I examined it closely. This was a camo pattern I had never seen before. It's like bamboo shoots or something. So they are trying to keep it mixed up. Later in this episode, they're going to talk to a guy who has a hat very close to this. But when I compared two screenshots, it is not the same hat. That will happen.
So,
they are going to use the same hat on multiple witnesses. But so far...
I made the joke that I peered like 8 years in the future to see us doing hat forensics, and we're doing it the next episode.
We're doing it already. Yeah.
We're doing it. Okay. So wait, hold on. He has bamboo camo? Is he hunting pandas?
I don't know. I've never seen this camo pattern before. I actually tried to Google it.
Junior, the avid panda hunter. It's incredible. I can't even believe what he says next. He says, I've got trail cam pictures of the creature. He also says his family's been here for 200 years, which I take it to mean this exact patch of woods. They've all just like, one will idle until they fall, and then the next must take their place. So the trail cam is either kind of a skinny guy bent over, like maybe taken from a filter video, or maybe just some ham.
Could be a ham falling out of a tree. I had naked man fleeing through the woods.
It's hard to overemphasize what nothing it is, and what Trapper sees when he sees this. He goes, "God damn, He's taller than 8 feet.
And there's no landmark to measure it against. There's nothing in the picture to give you that indication, which again, they make these pictures. They can have it, they can do whatever they want. And I swear that whoever photoshops these or creates these, there's no communication, because so rarely does it show when they're gathered around this blank piece of paper saying, well, look at that thing. Look at the hips on that thing. And then halftime, like, the hips are not visible, as we established in a previous episode. So there's always a disconnect. And I don't know that the person making the images is directly trying to undermine the team, but they also don't try very hard. Also,
he hates his job.
I do wish we would get to a point in the series where when they approach a witness, they just ask, do you have a trail cam picture? Because every witness has trail cam pictures. So at some point, and every time they act shocked, he's like, I caught a picture of it on my trail cam. Like, oh my God, really?
What, really?
We are very eager to see what that looks like.
Well, if you'll remember back to the early episodes when we first started doing this, they had to go to such incredible lengths to explain why any hillbilly would have something that takes pictures. They had... They had camcorders, and they were trying to record the majesty of a butterfly migration.
Right.
There was one guy that said, I just recorded it on my phone, and then they're like, get the fuck out of here. We're never talking about that again. But then somebody invented trail cams independently and looked up and were, oh my God, it's already a thing. And
well, this one, it said he set up the trail camera to track the next big buck. Like he some sort of legendary like buck that he was going to get next, and that was the backstory for why this guy had a trail camera set up. He was not looking for a cave creature,
but he did hear one. He heard a whisper, which is more like a moan, from the cave mouth, and he brings them over to show them the entrance, and Buck says, I see a big hole. And Jeff says, yeah, it's a dandy hole.
It wasn't the one he wanted, but it was the one he needed.
So these 6 men go into Junior's dandy hole.
Yeah, and they have to drop down into this thing. Again, it is harrowing. This is a legitimate thing that I would not do in the wilderness, is drop into this vertical, drop down on a rope into this vertical cave hole.
And what they land in is that same very, very spacious, well-traveled cave system.
That's true. Or maybe they don't even bother to go in. They just kind of made it look like they went in. Yeah,
they look like they went in, and then they go back to film in that cave system.
And they did find a bunch of great ambush points, but for other times, not now while they're weaponless and in the cave ready to get ambushed, but later when the creature attacks, he'll be ambushing from here.
Yeah, yes, they are really. They're getting really Deadpool with this shit. They're really just winking at the camera.
They do find a broken rock, and they're like, oh, he must have broken this rock with his monkey strength.
Okay, specifically how this plays out. Trapper says, there's fresh sign right here. And there's a leaf on the ground? This is where that happens, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he says there's a green leaf right here, and then he claims that a broken rock nearby has to be due to the cave creature clawing at it. Or to get to whatever animal dropped the leaf. It's amazing because he, again, from a single leaf, he constructs, well, this has to be the captain of the ghosts that fought an animal here and shattered this rock in its rage. And they have this exchange where Junior says, I don't think we could whip him in a fair fight, boys. And Trapper says, oh, we're not going to make a fair fight of it. It won't be fair.
We're going to pee all over ourselves and give up. We'll show him.
And then somebody says, this is where Willie and Bill have to set a damn bleep full of snares.
Cum guzzler.
Okay. Is that a phrase? Okay.
Yeah, it's a classic country phrase.
Cum juggler of snares. So we get to that. We get to the snare. I think it's amazing how quickly the Ghostmaster thing was dropped. The second it left Jeff's mouth, they're like, shut up, Jeff.
They do not have even a fraction of the capability, budget or imagination-wise, to stage a fight with a monster that controls an army of ghosts. Again, if this was a show that did second takes, they would have asked him to walk that back to some degree, and instead it's just they just move on. It's no, You were incorrect about that, it turns out.
Raccoons? Maybe he controls raccoons? I think we can work that out.
Can you wrangle a raccoon, Buck? Can you do it, Buck? Because that's who's going to do it. It's incredible the degree to which they're like, yeah, fuck that ghost army shit. That was crazy. We're not doing that. So they decide here's where the traps go, which is the entirety of the cave system. And Wild Bill and Willie now have to go lay them. So Wild Bill starts walking down this big hole, and of course he tells the hole to get some, which is
Nobody
what he
gives
does.
a shit about the danger of this thing because all it did was eat a tenth of a cow 40 years ago. So they're just like, we're here. We're not worried about the danger.
And what they do is at least what they say they do. What they say they do is they mine this entire tourist trap with locking metal nooses on child level.
40
just
of them.
throughout they say they put down 40. I don't think they do put down. I think they put down one.
No, they put down 2.
They put down 2. And to mark one of them, Willie gets out his old booger rag and nails it to a rock so that they know where all of the traps are.
Wild Bill says old booger rag like 4 different times and does not get a laugh any of them.
This is a little bit of story continuity that they actually do and they actually pay off, where he says, okay, I'm going to put down my bright red handkerchief in the spot to note where the traps end. So you got the mouth of the cave, traps. Here's my rag. When we come from the other direction, we'll know when we reach this rag that we've reached. So if something were to interfere with or move the rag, that would be a good scary horror moment later. So they actually set this up. They call special attention to it. The camera shows him nailing it down with a little nail. Again, all of these traps, they're held in place with just a nail they've nailed into the rock. And so it's just a little piece of wire. And I guess the presumption is that this 600-pound pile of pure muscle that can jump 70 feet in the air will not be able to pull that nail out of the ground?
That's the plan. I thought the handkerchief at first was like so they could clean the traps up afterwards. I was like, okay, that's great. I like that they're doing that so now that the children visiting this cave won't get caught in these snare traps.
No, listeners, spoiler alert. They're going to leave all of those behind, and they're going to make it a point of leaving all of those behind. They have booby-trapped the Blood Run Cave against anyone who goes in there in the dark, and then it's established that unless they've got bolt cutters, they can't get that thing off their leg. They are going to die there.
A whole 4th grade class doing 127 hours down there.
Jesus. And on the way out, Wild Bill says, old cave creature comes through here. He's headed for the old toe bone.
Fucking what?
Fuck that means.
I obviously wrote this down too.
The closed captioning on my TV was the old toe, T-O-E, bone, B-O-N-E. But again, as we've established, this team does not submit their own captions. The captions are done by some third party. This was their best guess as to what he said. Feel free at home to submit in the comments your idea of what he might have said there. I think it is more likely that he got halfway through his sentence and completely lost track of what he was going to say and, in fact, never had a plan. And this is what came out, and that Wild Bill was as surprised as anyone when he said the phrase, he's headed for the old toe bone.
He's going to go for the old Toblerone. It's Toblerone bait. Because he's human. He's just a man. And what man can resist?
Nice Toblerone.
What a delicious, gritty triangle goodness.
Weirdly shaped, flavorless candy bar.
With the texture of sandpaper, yes. Our third witness, Foley, he's a lifelong outdoorsman. He has another camo baseball cap, as Jason mentioned. But not specifically the same one. Slightly different. He's slightly different panda hunting. He was out checking his snares when he heard like a lowing sound, and he is such a natural performer that when he does the sound, he does it with his whole body. Every time he does the sound, he does this big like operatic whoa. It's what they should clap. They should clap when he does that. He has a recording of the sound, and he plays it for them. This is the third witness. Last time, the third witness was like, uh-oh, there's a whole fucking fleet of pterodactyls. Yeah. And what the third witness now has is he goes, whoa!
And it's, again, they could have had the third witness say, anything. They could have come up with anything. Could have said he lost his sister in these caverns and always wondered, was it the cave creature that took her? If you find her bones, tell me. Could have been anything to raise the stakes, to confirm that it's a man-eater, which again they have not done. Instead, he plays this sound. The sound, by the way, not from the sound effects CD. It's somebody on the team making that sound. Either this guy
It's a man going grar.
Yeah, it's a man making
grar.
it. Which earlier the guy said that he heard like a whispering, sighing sound. They can never land on what noise this thing makes because they didn't go back and watch the movie again to see what the creatures in the descent said. And then Trapper, God bless him, says he has to have a huge chest to develop that much power in his voice.
Huckleberry says, well, it must be bigger than we thought then. So we're upgrading it from 8 feet, 600 pounds now. It's even bigger.
So the stakes were raised. They found a way to raise them.
Something has to have come from that. Again, as if they themselves did not arrange that witness. And they cannot walk away like, well, that was a waste of our time. That told us nothing. We know less now than when we spoke to him.
And Trapper even adds, after they left, he doesn't say this to Foley. He says, to the camera, what Foley didn't know is that was a warning growl. What the fuck didn't you tell Foley that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you tell Foley that? Because now you've done this before. You've done this in several episodes before where you've decided one specific guy is in danger. That's our stakes.
If we don't kill this monster, Foley dies.
Yes, Foley gave them so little to work with. He's like, yeah, that's the sound of a guy going grar, that they're like, okay, I'm going to spin this so now we know it has a huge chest, it's bigger than we thought, and it's going to kill Foley. And then they don't tell him, and they just set off. And it's
and here's the worst part. If it kills Foley, Foley's ghost is simply added to its army.
It already has his sister. She was the best cow he ever knew.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What? You're so disappointed in me this episode.
I try not to ever take this to a dark place. I try to keep it light.
Mm-hmm.
That's your mistake.
I just like that they're finally hunting a creature in a cave, so they don't have to do a pincer maneuver. Like, they can do a plan that is not a pincer maneuver.
And what's that plan?
Well, they go into the cave, and then they have one guy block the cave. So it's like a pincer maneuver, only one of... But hear me out! It's... Jesus. No, but here, what do they say? They decided that the creature, Buck decides that the creature's used to flashlights and headlamps down in them caves. And so they decide that they're going to use torches. And it ain't used to fire, so he'll fear it. Now, I want you to imagine all the things they could do to scare this creature with fire. Now, forget all of them, because the torch just kind of go out in a couple minutes, and they just throw them away.
We're skipping past a little bit. I want to point out something, and that's that when they decide on we have to use these torches, I think they did this out of order. I think they were doing Huckleberry's Electric Ghostmaster note.
Exactly.
Right? Like, they had to say, oh, we've got to establish these stakes. We can't use our lights. We can't use electricity because he's a Ghostmaster, and he's immune to electricity. We have to bring torches in, but... they didn't make torches. What they just made was sticks that they lit on fire. Like, a torch is more than that.
They wrapped gauze around the ends of sticks, and they soaked it in like alcohol, and that will burn for, 5 minutes.
Like 15 minutes.
To do a torch.
Like it's pitch.
For one thing, it's you need to coat it in pitch, and then that will last for like an hour. Like the torches in movies where they just stay lit forever, that's a movie thing, but these guys don't know that. So the whole hilarious thing where they decide they're going to make torches, I could see when they were doing it. It's like, that's not even going to stay on. So I thought, they're going to have to do some tricky editing stuff where they have to keep stopping to relight their torches and make it look like they stayed lit the whole time.
Yeah, they just ditch them. They just
ditch them. They just throw them down and turn on their electric lights, which they've established ghosts can manipulate at will. But that's fine because we're dropping the ghost thing.
Yeah, they forgot. They forgot about the ghost so completely that the one thing Huckleberry planted earlier in the episode, the ghost will fuck with our electricity. Buck forgets about that and comes up with a whole second reason why they can't use their flashlights.
And then they use their flashlights.
And then that doesn't work. Yeah. Nothing pans out here. Now, some of us, we kind of did skip over that their plan. They are going to go start from the other end of the cave system. They're going to chase the creature toward the mouth of the cave where the 40 snares are set up. And then at the mouth of the cave, they've planted only Buck with a shotgun. Buck's instructions are if the creature somehow gets past these snares that are only on the ground, and we've already established that it crawls on the walls, it will be up to you to stop it. You, Buck, alone.
You put the damn lead to him, so just shoot him in the face.
Push him back.
The thing is, against this 600-pound, 200-year-old cave monster that controls an army of ghosts. Now, here's the thing. If it was Buck alone in the dark with his shotgun, told that he has to stop Brockway from coming out of the cave, I don't like Buck's chances in that situation. Like, I don't think he lands a shot on you. I think you could evade Buck's attacks and if not physically attack Buck and get the gun away from him, you could at least avoid being shot and escape into the wilderness. Let alone...
Yeah, I know he rolls up like a potato bug when threatened, so I would just, frighten him.
If I was playing football against a team of 11 Bucks, I would win 210-0.
So that alone is very, very funny because they plant Buck at the mouth of this cave and they have this hero shot of him standing there, and he has his own torch stuck in the ground that he's lit next to him, which we all know is going to go out. So then the rest of the team goes in with their torches, and there's this moment. It's not like a dramatic moment where oh my gosh, the torch is going out, we're left in darkness. It's just my torch is running out. It's mine too. And they had even established that they had packed extra torches in this eventuality, but they realized so quickly, we don't know how to make torches like they have in the movies. These went out instantly, and they're like, all right, we got to switch to our lights. When the entire premise of the strategy was that it won't run from lights because it's seen every caver has a light on. So why would it be scared of electric lights? But it will fear fire. The fire will drive it toward Buck. And instead they just have to immediately, and they don't even talk around we'll have to find another way to scare it. They just move on. It's beautiful. It's a type of theater that I don't think existed prior to Mountain Monsters.
Do you guys think there might be, I don't know, some kind of reason why Buck in particular can't navigate the tight spaces of this cave? I think there's
nothing I can think of.
Oh wait, he said it. No, he said at the start he was afraid of the dark.
Oh my God, you're right. That's really thoughtful of them to put that in, so we didn't have to say you're technically disabled because of your morbid obesity.
Nope. You're never gonna take me out. Every time you're drowning, and you slap my hand away every time.
I know. But so let's assume there's a cave creature, and this is not a fully shaved pervert living in the cave. And so assuming he's not a Shawnee ghost overseer, he runs towards Buck, playing nose tackle with a shotgun. He's going to push him back into the cave to get caught in the snare traps he'd already evaded once. And then assume our team finds that cave creature. Are they going to just blast it and murder it while it's helplessly tied to a nail? That's the plan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. 100%. They've established nothing, that it's not any sort of threat, except maybe to Foley in the last minute there, and they're just going to blast the holy shit out of it. Now, I just want to revisit. So this whole torch thing, I was it's so hard. It's so hard to get rid of your stakes and storytelling influences watching the show, because I was I know what this is. This is Jeff's episode, right?
Uh-huh.
Wild Bill got an episode, Buck got an episode, your torches go out. You can't use your lights because of ghosts. You're going to have to rely on Jeff's thermal to navigate the cave, which is the shot. They use it from The Descent. That's kind of how it happens in Descent with the night vision.
Yeah.
You're just sealing that straight up, but that's a good scare. No, they don't do any of that.
Nothing.
Jeff has his thermal, but doesn't really catch anything on there. He does catch the torch.
Yeah, it's just totally bright red, just useless, but in the opposite direction of I don't know. Jeff, why do you even bring that thing?
So they're exploring the caves, and they're really beautiful caves, and Willie gets distracted at some weird-looking rocks and goes, wow, that looks like caramel on top of ice cream. And Trapper says, I'm looking for goddamn flesh. I'm not looking for caramel on top of ice cream.
Gets enraged by this guy not taking the hunt seriously. It's a weird moment.
It's a weird moment to call that goddamn flesh. Like, what? What are you looking for?
At this point, someone decides that it knows they're after him, too. I don't know why or how, but they're like, oh, no, he knows we're after him. Like, okay,
well,
okay.
They're gonna find something.
So he says, this sumbitch knows we're after him, and they're wandering around, and then all of a sudden they jump. They startle. I think it's Willie who startles first. Everybody startles at Willie's noise, and they just start pointing their rifles at each other's heads, as they are wont to do when they're panicked. And what they find is a boiled skull. Or as Trapper says, that's a wolf head.
It's a wolf head. It's a fucking wet dog skull.
And that's set up there just perfect, he says.
Yeah, Huckleberry says...
because you just put it there.
So Huckleberry says, it was placed there. It laid it there for us to find. And Jeff, on his thermal, because he hasn't really done anything, says, it's so fresh, it's still glowing. Fucking
good job.
Somebody needs to teach Jeff how heat dissipation... It is winter in a cave. That means it was killed like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, it killed it, and
warm.
then it's skinned. Like in the time it took to skin it, it would be cold. Because again,
that is exactly the Predator. Only the thing would scream like in Predator, but it didn't. It was a very polite wolf. So they push on, and I can't overemphasize enough how silly it is when the crew member goes roar, because it's like almost exactly the word roar. You wouldn't spell it any other way. And
I think he actually technically says, "Rawr, I'm a shack."
And they never even up here at the end. They never arrived on what exact noise this creature makes. They just never. They never quite got it.
It's just a guy going. Rawr.
It leaves them wet wolf heads like a kitty cat pet. Like it's presents them a little fresh kill.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. What was that? Was it a warning? What was it? And then you just forgot about it. You're like, that's not relevant anymore. So Willie thinks they're at the section with the snares, and he goes, all right, I'm gonna go find my hanky. But it's gone. The ancient cave creature, the ghost master, stole Willie's booger rag.
But then they find it just inches away. It's just moved off to the side.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So they find it inches away. It really just broke the rock. But that means... It's aware. It's somehow aware of the traps, which is going to be a big deal very shortly. Trapper says, this thing's so scary. I'm afraid he's leading us into a trap. And I love how often they get out-trapped by the monster, like specifically at their game.
Yeah, basically wonderful. Every single time, if you think about it.
Well, the monsters will often outsmart the traps themselves, but every once in a while, like there was the Wolfman, who would almost kill their entire team with a single log, which would have been such a good kill streak. I love it when they're just like, they get outsmarted at their own game. I feel like that's the monster, not just like getting away from them, but stunting on them. Like it's out there in the woods.
Wolfman's like trying for achievements. Kill entire Ames team with one log.
He's like looking at his wolf friend next to him, and he's like, I'm going to try to get them all with that one trait. It's like, fucking, you're not going to get them all with that one trait.
No, I got this.
I think I could do it. Cave creatures are stunting on him. Jeff says, I got something on thermal just ahead. And then we cut forward, and we see the bald man running around on his hands and knees in the cave, is what we see.
I have to confess something here. In all of the episodes, we've made fun of how dumb these guys are, and all the episodes we've made fun of their pincer movement. It just now, in that scene, occurred to me that the reason they split up the team is so that when you're shooting one team, the other team can act as the monster. It's like if they need a log thrown at them, it's the other team throwing the log, and then you cut to the other team, and if they need some noise made or something, it's the other. So here, that's Buck on the thermal. That's why they separated. In addition to the obvious why he can't go in the cave, that him separating out, that's him because it's his do-rag. He's not bald; it's his do-rag you're looking at. That's Buck crawling in briefly into view and then crawling back out, acting as the cave creature, and that's the entire reason they separate.
So they see him on the thermal. They go after him. They don't get him. And Willie comes back. He's kind of ahead of the rest of the crew. He comes back and he pokes his head around. And he's like, "Oh, I got nothing." And then he gets zipped out. He gets zipped right out of the cave in that classic horror scene where he goes like, "Oh no!" But because they can't just kill Willie, he of course runs immediately back in, totally unharmed. Yeah. He gets yoked and released. So they are just stunting on him. They're just fucking with Willie. And what Willie says cracks me up so much that it's hard to identify why. He says, "Something had hold of me by the leg. I saw him and he grabbed hold of me by the leg. He had me right by the foot." It's such Ralph Wiggum energy. It's such just...
I could see he had these big long arms and he just kind of blended in with them rocks. Like he's giving such a police report on certain death he just barely escaped. Like he got pulled into the darkness by his ankles.
The whole thing, the setup is when they try to do these specific scripted moments, it's always so awkward. And the whole thing is he finds a little tunnel that's just big enough to crawl into. And again, so he crawls in, making himself totally vulnerable. Again, if the cave creature's in there, he's just going to walk right into its mouth. Like it's going to feed himself. It's going to feed himself to it. It's like a tube of Go-Gurt. You're squeezing yourself right into its gullet.
Whoops, it's a Sarlacc.
So he goes in there. It's like, I don't see anything. And turns around and then he's now looking out of the tunnel. And then Buck grabs his shoes and pulls him backward. And that's the whole thing. But it's so like carefully staged because he has to be just right. Because he can't get injured. He's not a stunt performer. They don't have pads or any of the stuff a stunt team would have if you were doing this as a stunt. And then they don't have any way to follow up on it because obviously in a film, either that character is dead or else you are pursuing that character. But they instead all just have to stand there in a group and shout, "Get out of there, Willie." And then Willie, which is not helpful. And then Willie comes 1 second later, comes popping out of the tunnel with his story of how he was captured. And that's it. Like they can't make anything more of that moment than that.
They're not rattled at all. They're over it so quickly.
Well, Wild Bill's rattled. He goes, "He grabbed a hold of you? Let's get that sucker." Like, he touched my Willie?
Somebody shouts, "I'm nervous as a prostitute in church."
That's Wild Bill again. Huckleberry then quietly adds, "Well, we gotta respect this sumbitch now." Why? What?
Grab
because
powers.
He grabbed Willie? Because he grabbed Willie and let him go? So they find Willie's snare, which was totally useless. The creature just can see in its cave system, as obviously it would, and is just running around them.
Well, Trapper decides he's so human-like, he's seeing them.
He's so human-like, he's seeing them. That's such an insane statement. What is he try? I'm trying to like give him credit, right? Give him the credit. What is he trying to say? Is he trying to say he's so human-like he can recognize that this is a trap and he won't go for it? Is he literally saying only human eyes can see human-made things, therefore this creature can see us? Oh my god.
There are few achievements in this show that rise to the level of Trapper trying to pump up Willie and his trap making. Because no matter what Willie comes up with, he has to act like, well, this is impossible for a creature to avoid climbing into this box. If this thing doesn't wind up in this box, it must be so far beyond what science understands. So here, you have all these cables, like they're not covering every inch of the ground. And the creature, any animal would notice something is weird in its environment. There's something strange there. It's just so, and even if you walked right over it, unless you hit it just right with your foot, it's not going to grab your ankle. You have to basically be cooperating as they were in the barn there. So he's looking at these just very sloppy loops of cable lying around. It's like, man, for him to have not stepped into this thing, wow.
He's so human he can see human stuff. Willie, it was inevitable that you would fail, Willie. So they run after him, but they lose him in the cavern. They decide this one cavern he went into has too many branching paths, but they can't chase him through that. So what they do is they pause to admire the handprints he's left in the dust.
They are trackers. They have heat vision in their hand.
They're looking at handprints in the dust. You can't track him by that? By those handprints in the dust?
Also, the fact that the cave branches out into 100 different paths that it's impossible to track, that kind of makes me question their initial plan to chase him this direction toward Buck. If he has infinite options he can go and Buck is just one of them, it kind of sounds like that was a flaw you should have recognized because you were in this part of the cave. This is where you put your traps. Like, you observed that there's 100 different hallways it can disappear to. It makes me question their judgment. Because a lot of times, if your plan at this stage is this bad, you usually messed up earlier. Like, you should look back.
I still think they could pursue it and kill it if that's what they're trying to do. But they are, at the end of the day, complete cowards. So any excuse to leave is they'll take it. So like, God, that's too many hallways.
I think you shouldn't pause. If you're saying this thing is impossible to track, he could have gone anywhere, you shouldn't then pause and go, look at these big old tracks. I think that's... Earlier in this episode, Trapper, you, with your bare naked eye standing, saw fucking field mice prints in the snow and discerned the mortality rate of field mice in this area could not possibly support a cave creature. Now you're looking at the cave creature's handprint and going, there's no way.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. Jeff's like, clearly sees these warm handprints on his thermal. He's just like, no, guys, I can't see anything on the thermal.
It's time to go home.
See a warm meal back that direction.
Trapper turns to Willie and says, "You could have set 1,000 snares and never had him." Okay.
Right, Willie?
Then
slaps him on the arm. Buck up, Willie.
And in their own improv, they are so incredibly bad at what they do. It is wonderful. I can't, if we were trying to write an episode of Mountain Monsters, as if this show is written, if we were trying to write an episode that makes fun of them, we would be much less mean to them than they are to themselves.
We'd never be this mean-spirited. Yeah, it's
the accidental dunks. Like, you're dunking on yourself so hard, you're somehow like flipping off and backflipping off a trampoline, and you don't mean to do any of it. You're so surprised when you land in the middle of that dunk. You're like, "Whoa, I made it!" Yes,
you're like,
you
Trapper
dunked on
here.
Yourself.
Like, as they're like wrapping it up and trying to put this positive spin on, Trapper says it's too damn massive. We're out of our element. But like, do you even have an element? Are you talking about Old Country Buffet? You coward fucks!
Yeah.
I guess I am mean.
The show is getting to you. I love it. I love it so much, but we're going to drive you mad.
Like, Huckleberry's like, once again, like, we proved there's the thing. There's no reason to hunt it. We did it anyway. We failed almost as hard as you can. But boy, oh boy, now we know it's in there.
So now they know it's in there. It's too massive. Trapper says, it's just too much. I believe that we could get lost in there and never found. And like, I think that first part is true, but I do think Miss Johnson's 4th grade class would find your corpses 40 feet into the Disneyland cave. I think they'd find you pretty quick. Well, go ahead.
We're about to say the same thing, where Wild Bill says, as far as I'm concerned, he can have that cave.
That's almost word for word what he said about the hill where the Snallygasters lived.
He said the exact same thing.
Is that the show? Yeah.
When the credits rolled at the end of the Snallygaster, when they were driving away, he said, as far as I'm concerned, he can have it. So this has now become his catchphrase. The monster we were hunting, we are surrendering all human territory to you.
This cave, I know it generates thousands of dollars, tourist dollars for this county, but he got it fair and square. We can't get that from him. Like you were trying to take the cave? No, it's an insane thing to say. And it's even more insane what Huckleberry says next, which he says, "Hell of a hunt, boys."
Yeah, you did great.
Was it?
I'm going to give you a little detail that's going to make this even sadder. So because of the complexity of the cave network stuff, they had to film out of order, as we have established. So like Buck giving his explanation about the lights and all that, like that was done afterward. So here when they're doing their failure huddle, Buck has his torch in the ground next to him and it's freshly lit. It has barely been burning. And we've established these only burn for like 5 minutes and they go out. So the way they did this, they had to film their failure huddle first.
And then go film the failure.
The mouth of the cave where Buck is standing, that's not actually connected to the place where all the traps are. They did this whole thing where they claimed they were connected. So then they all walked in 10 feet inside the cave and then filmed the part where they emerge from the cave, and Buck is like, "Is that you?" Or, and they have to ask Buck, like, "Did you fight the monster?" Buck has to be like, "No, I heard it, but it never came out here." So they had to film their failure huddle first and then turn around and then, and then go into the other part of the cave and film their supposed chase through it. There's something so fatalistic about that.
Yeah, it really is. But here's my pitch. I want a horror movie where the mountain monster guys have filmed their failure huddle first, and then they go and they find a real monster and they get killed by the monster. No, wait. They actually win. They kill the monster, but now there's this footage of them saying how they lost to the monster. And
there can't be any second takes. You have to use all your footage. That's
right.
the rule.
Or maybe they die to a second monster. So it's a found footage movie where all the facts contradict each other because they're full of shit, but they did actually die to a monster.
What a convoluted, beautiful mess this episode was. What's everybody's favorite quote? Jason.
Way back when Wild Bill first rappels down into the cave system, he says, "Hey, Will, this looks like where old Batman live at."
Oh, it's real cute.
There was a giant penny, a Tyrannosaurus.
Sean, how about yours?
Okay, mine's subtle. It was during a recap. Right after they found the wet dog skull, I think. Somebody says, "This creature can blend into rocks and hide up on ledges." And then somebody else says, "We have no idea what this creature's capable of."
Oh, great. Mine, all right, there's a moment where just as they give up, they're heading back, and Trapper says, "Oh, we gotta go check on Buck, to make sure Buck's still alive." And Jeff gets this really nasty look on his face, and Jeff says, "If that thing came out, I think he shit himself."
Not worried about if the thing would have eaten Buck or whatever, but
he knows he's not the favorite kid. He's alone with the stepdad, and he's like, I'm going to sabotage the favorite kid.
It's the Jeff-Buck rivalry. I'm Team Buck.
By far, at this point, the number one reason to watch the show is watching it, because knowing that the show, went on for another several seasons after this, at what point these two men come to blows, and what a sight that must have been. It's going to happen at some point. We don't know when, but wow.
Just a slap fight. Buck's gonna pill up like a potato bug. Jeff will never get into that defense.
They just need a tiny push from any psychic Bigfoot could get those two fist fighting.
I bet that happens. I bet they turn on each other from a psychic Bigfoot at some point. I'm putting money down.
Because you have to be a Bigfoot teacher, you have to open up your mouth. You have to be a Bigfoot teacher. All your friends are so knocked out. You had to have the last word last night. You know what everything's about. You had to have the white hot spotlight. You had to be a Bigfoot last night. Whoa, whoa.